covenant is a component of that, but it's in the context of a bigger picture of this continuum of care that we're working on with the county and our nonprofit partners, our faith-based community as well.
Since homelessness began, what has worked? Has anything worked so far?
You know,
Do you think, or has it just been, it's you've had to deal with it here locally,
Right.
obviously,
right?
and it's gotten worse, it seems, and worse and worse and worse. Has anything worked? Do you think? Is that
You know, honestly, I feel like that I welcome any solution ideas. And I think that I was sharing with you earlier, my brother came into town from Oakland and he's like, oh, this isn't that bad. So we're not alone as a city dealing with it, right? And I think we're all trying to find different solutions. I think that we've seen this coming, to be quite honest with you. We've seen these income gaps continue to divide those that have and those that don't, right? And we've seen a lack of investment in mental health and a lack of development of housing and, lower wages and sort of just the shrinking middle class, if you will. And as a result, we've seen this influx of homelessness and a lack of services to support those folks, as well as a lack of ability to kind of move out of poverty, right? So I think it's a kind of a decades in the making, I guess is what I'm getting at. And so right now, what we're dealing with is sort of the manifestation of that. We're not really talking about what it takes to actually really, really, truly solve it. And a lot of that has to be prevention, and a lot of that has to be trying to support people to have livable wage jobs, to have access to mental health and substance abuse treatment, all of the different components, but to have a home, right? And to be able to live here. And it's really tricky. It's hard for an average worker to live here, right?
How's the city helping the people that are struggling with COVID? What I keep thinking about is when I was in Rio de Janeiro, I went to Rio de Janeiro, and there you're either very wealthy,
right?
There's no middle class, or you're very, very poor,
right?
And they're struggling right now with COVID there, and in Brazil badly.
Right.
But it seems like here we have all this, the real estate here is going crazy.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a house, you're going to make an offer $200,000 over because there's a lot of wealth coming over the hill.
Yeah.
That's being put into this town. But on the other hand, people that live here who are working their waitress jobs,
Yeah.
Those type of jobs, they're struggling.
Yeah.
To be able to stay here, and are we going to end up like that? We're going to have the very, very wealthy, and there's no middle class. We'll end up having no middle class. Just the wealthy and the people that are hurting.
I mean, I think as a nation we're seeing that. I think sadly it's we haven't. It's not that we didn't see this train coming, right? This has been happening. We've been seeing the shrinking middle class for decades. We aren't investing in our working people. We're not investing in livable wage jobs. We're not having an ability for people to kind of move out of kind of the social mobility opportunities, if you will, right? You start as a waitress, and then you have a job, and then you go to school, or then you don't even need to go to school, but you can still have the American dream, right? That lifestyle of like, I can live comfortably here. And I think we've seen that shrink and shrink and shrink. And I think what happens is people either move away from this community because they can't afford to make it work, or it's just so hard to work here and make it, just to make it to have a happy life. You're working all the time, right?
We praised the boardwalk for opening the other day,
right?
But how are these people who are the operators of the rides? How are they being able to live here?
Right. Well, it's tricky.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the whole, they usually, either they're coming in from their kids or they're coming in from out of town, and then there's the traffic implications of that. And we're a tourist destination. I think part of the beauty of what could be possible out of this really terrible time is an opportunity for recovery and a kind of a re-envisioning of how we want our communities to look, and as a nation, how do we want to be, and what do we value, and if we value these things, how are we shifting our systems to meet those values, and how are we establishing or reestablishing an economy that provides opportunity for people to have a quality of life and to live and to raise kids and to go through the spectrum of life here. And it's going to take work and intention. I particularly am really worried about women who've left the workforce. That's something we're seeing across the nation. It's clearly something that is happening here also locally. And so
how have you noticed that?
One of the things, well, it's interesting because I was talking with some of the folks from our Workforce Investment Board, and they're actually in the process of collecting data for our local numbers. So anecdotally, I have it locally, but nationally, if we follow the same trends, we're seeing women at massive levels leave the workforce, and primarily women of color who work in tourism, hospitality, or those types of service industries. And as a result, the anticipation is that it's gonna set women back, decades, right? And then you couple that with childcare and other housing care needs, and therein lies another issue, right? They can't get childcare. It's really hard. So how are we centering our reinvestment in recovery around these populations that, if we do so, will allow our entire community to thrive and allow our kids to thrive? So, we have an opportunity to be bold and to do some really great things with recovery.
In that book that Wallace Bain and those guys put together, that ties together a lot that we've been through last year with COVID, with BLM, Black Lives Matter, with the fires. And it's been a very difficult year for Santa Cruz County. Yeah. And you think we're going to come out ahead? How is the city council? Does they see a bright future for us, or how are you guys helping the fire victims? Are they still being helped by the city, by the county?
Yeah, my understanding is they are, being helped by the county, and Supervisor Coonerty shared that with me in terms of some of his work that he's done with the county.
Does the city get involved? I know it's not in the city, but does the city get involved with that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, however we, especially with the fire, however we can come together and unite to support our the victims of the fire. Yeah, opening up facilities, helping in any way we can, of course. Right. I think the housing and the redevelopment of certain areas, especially that were burnt down by the fire, right, is the next stage of that, and the recognition that climate change is not going away and extreme weather events are not going away. So how do we build resilient infrastructure to weather those types of extreme events, right? And so how can we learn from these just catastrophic events that occurred this past year? What industries were resilient, what things were effective, and how do we plan for those moving forward? Our water system, for example, we had a meeting with our water commission last night. How are we thinking about a resilient water system that, with aging infrastructure, water is essential for everything, right? And so you have fires, and then you potential for the runoff to hit, some of Loch Lomond and some of our water reserves. We're not connected to the California aquifer. Like, we need to think about water, right? That's critical infrastructure. So as we're thinking about building resilient communities, we have to think about what that looks like. Does that look like different, building practices? Passive housing is interesting, right? You can have housing that doesn't require a lot of heating or a lot of cooling, right? By design. Thinking about electrification and other ways to be climate resilient. And by doing so, I think there's also this really great opportunity for green careers and a green economy and good jobs, right? And so how are we connected to the workforce development in that regard? So I think there's a lot of challenges. I'm always an optimistic person. I'm just like that. I think, so I get really excited by that. I also think, we can value things differently. I think at the end of the day, health.
Is water rationing coming down the pipe, do you think, for the city?
I think conservation. Yeah, most likely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, conservation. The thing about Santa Cruz is conservation is already really something that, as a culture, I feel like our community understands and is very aware of water and trying to limit their water use or have, very drought-friendly landscaping, right? And so I think that's only going to do so much in terms of where we're at. We're not like a heavy water use community. So the conservation is a component of that, but also, storage and thinking about, water reuse and the aging infrastructure we have here.
How is the city going to be dealing with getting people to come back to Pacific Avenue? Now people are like not wanting to come down here. They're afraid, and for the
perceptions.
Perception, and how I just saw just a minute ago they closed the road off and maybe it's nicer for pedestrians. But how are you guys going to try and get that public that's in Aptos Capitol to come back down to Pacific Avenue?
Well, come to Pacific Avenue. I'll start right there. It's wonderful down here. I think, like so many other communities who are experiencing the economic recession, we have an opportunity to sort of really revisit and rethink our downtown, right? And downtowns reinvent themselves. We've seen it with the earthquake and kind of how we rebuilt after that. it's hard for our businesses. So we need our community to come and support our local businesses. We also need to hear from our businesses. What are their needs? Some of the parklets, some of the outdoor dining, closing off the roads, as you said. How are we working with them? How are we following best practices? What are we doing in terms of serving our patrons and our downtown businesses so that we're just constantly able to be as nimble as possible to support our businesses?
Obviously, you're doing everything virtually now.
Yeah.
How can the public get involved in virtual meetings?
Yeah.
Or is it strictly for the council?
No, absolutely. So if we have an item on the council agenda, the public can get involved either by calling in or connecting via Zoom if they want. But there's also a lot of work just happening within the individual departments. So economic development, if you're curious about what we're doing for our economic development strategies in our downtown and, in water, and, they can contact me directly. So if there's things that, are happening, the council is one place for that, but there's a lot of other avenues.
Can you give out the public the information as far as how they can get a hold of you or how they can get a hold of the city council,
Sure.
as far as so they can become involved in the city?
Well, they can always email me. So it's at mwatkins@cityofsantacruz.com.
Okay.
And they can always call. I don't have my number offhand. And just go online and check out our website and see what's happening. It's really exciting. Our Parks and Rec programming is going to be back up and running. One thing I'm really excited about is the amount of scholarship funding we have available for kids who are interested in participating, but maybe their families don't have the means. So through the Children's Fund and our Friends of Santa Cruz Parks and Rec,
right.
They're really actively trying to get kids and families to sign up for scholarships. So if you know folks, actively recruit them to get involved in some of our programming.
And they can find that information where a scholarship program
on the Parks and Rec link of our website.
Okay. Schools, before we let you go,
Yeah.
schools opening back up?
Schools are opening back up.
Okay.
Yeah, just, so much gratitude to all of the teachers, all of my colleagues at the county office, all of the folks who are just working so hard to get the schools open. They're truly heroes. The teachers that I get to see as a parent of two daughters that go to a local school here, unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable. They
Right.
put so much into it, and they have so much, they work so hard to get these kids. And my daughters come home, they're like stoked. Like, she's like, I had to wear the mask all day. Or she's like, but she's like, but I love school. This is awesome. And so it feels really great to have them back as safely as they can and have them vaccinated. And yeah.
How do you see us? One more question. How do you see us a year from now? What do you see? Do you see some changes and some good changes? And if so, what would they might look like?
Oh, I like that. I think, yeah, I do. I think that we will see some good changes. I think we will see. We'll see some hard times too. I think obviously this isn't going to go away in a year,
Right.
but I think we've learned a lot, and hopefully folks will feel comfortable to get vaccinated, and we'll have movement there. I really do think that we have an opportunity for just a more equitable and kind of healthier future, and I think we have a chance to make that become our reality. So
Right.
as long as we continue to try to move in that direction, that's my priority. And supporting our community members.
So you got 4 years of this. Are you going to stick with it down the road?
I term out after 4 years.
You?
Yeah.
That's it?
Well, you term out for 2 years and then you can come back. But it's a lot, running, being on city council is a lot. It's a gift. It's wonderful to be able to serve in this way. And there's opportunity for people to fill the shoes behind me. So my hope is
Anybody can get involved.
yeah, if you're interested in running, I say, either one, try it out, serve on a commission, serve on a board, serve on an advisory. Yeah, or, we have a number of different commissions that people serve on. Get a chance to kind of see what it means and what it takes to do policy making.
Right.
I think, I encourage people to move away from identity politics, to move away from if you're either this or you're that. You either hate homeless or you're for homeless, or you care about the rich and you don't care about when you do that, it starts from a place of division, and it's really hard to move.
We've been divided for a couple of years.
I know.
For years now, right?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I think the wedge issues of, it's like abortion, for example, is a very good one, right? You're very clear. You're either pro-life or you're not. But when you start from that place of tribal party, right? Tribal crew, this is my crew and you're that, then you don't see where you can find common ground with people. And I think that's the hardest part to me. I think, even with the conversation recently around homelessness is, gosh, nobody wants human suffering. We care about the health of the whole community. And how do we work together to try to find some movement for success and solutions, and that are pragmatic, that sure, may not be the perfect answer, and we can learn, and we have to learn, and we change, and we modify, and we keep trying to go in a direction towards solution. Because I think what happens is if you're kind of this, then you don't want to do it, and then you lose the courage to be able to try. Right. So
have the courage.
Yeah, I think it's everything. It really is, and that comes with risk, and it comes with vulnerability and feeling judged. But I really believe that everybody I talk to, I have so much empathy for all of their perspectives, and I believe there's so much shared understanding around common ground. So if we start from that place, it's a good place to begin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for your service too.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure.
Thanks very much. Thanks everybody for watching. The next alternate radio show is tomorrow night at the Palms in Los Gatos, 6:30. Mr. James Durbin will be playing. So either come out and watch it there at the Palms in Los Gatos, or watch on Santa Cruz Waves Facebook page at 6:30. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.
Thanks, Neil.